I would now request Balramji to give a few comments. And I'm sure many of you have questions for Suhasji. So please, you have two choices. One is you can write your question in the chat box, and I will then read them out to Suhasji. Or after Balramji's comments, there is a feature in Zoom called Raise Your Hand. It is in this reaction in your manage participants column. So there is an option. You can click that, it'll say raise your hand, and if you, I will then unmute you so that you can ask your question. So now we will go to Balramji. Over to you, Balramji.
Before I forget, Swami Yogatmananda ji, thank you that you are here. I'm so happy. Namaste.
He was finally able to hear you.
Okay,
he had
thank
some
you.
difficulty in the beginning. Thank you, Professor Sengupta ji and Dr. Kshirsagar ji. That was wonderful, wonderful lecture. I always enjoy your observations. I really don't have a whole lot of things to say, but I thought maybe since Sukalyanji asked me to make a few comments, I will make a couple of observations, maybe ask a couple of questions, or at least raise some points that you might like to address. One is the wonderful thing that I enjoyed in this is the connection that you make, and I think you are unique in that sense. I've heard you in NAMA as well as other places, and the Boston Center presentations also, that you make a good connection between what Ayurveda is overall essential practices and how this can be communicated to people through scientific language. So you kind of make that connection. That is beautiful, because science may not be perfect, but the language is acceptable today. And Ayurveda may be perfect, but the language is not that clear. So I think this is very important aspect that you make. I see it in all your presentations. The second point I wanted to make, which is very specific to Ayurveda, and you may like to consider this, elaborate either today or some other time, is that Ayurveda diagnosis is a holistic diagnosis. Although we might call the modern medicine diagnosis also symptomatic, more symptomatic, but I'm calling Ayurveda holistic because Ayurveda has a whole basis of it. Why, if they see the tongue and what is the kind of shape of tongue and what is on the tongue and what kind of object changes you see, there is a reason behind all that. In modern medicine, when we make fever, for example, as a diagnosis, or some certain biomarkers as a diagnosis, which is really for very specific thing, not as holistic as Ayurveda is. So I hope that modern medicine learns, as you said, that there are several diseases now being treated by multiple drugs. And that is an indication that you really need to fix not just one thing. You need to fix a bunch of things because they're all connected, which is what you suggested. So I feel that medicine is not made, medicine is made for health, but health is not made for medicine. And sometimes this becomes confused because of a variety of interest and ignorance. And so this is very important. You also made an observation early on about how the world is seen and how we think of life, how do we think of the lifestyle. And in that sense, if you really think, sometimes it may be coronavirus has changed our life, confined us to home. Maybe there is some wisdom in that. And if we look at from that perspective, so maybe we need to reflect back. And sometimes, although in Indian philosophy, other than Ayurveda, also in Bhagavad Gita, I say your karma that really determines what will happen to you. Swami Yogatmananda is here in 2007 or 8, I think we had a conference on consciousness. And I had asked him a question. And he said, who knows, maybe it's the result that determines what karma you do. And this has a analogy in physics. in thermodynamics, actually it's the Gibbs free energy that determines whether something will happen or not. How it will happen, it's a detail. The detail can be in a variety of ways, and the disease may be one of the details that may be happening. So those are my observations, and I have a couple of observations that are more like for you to maybe respond if you have time. One of them is, we talk about all this knowledge of Ayurveda that comes from India. You talked about the Ritucharya or seasonal changes. There is the impact of Desa and Kalas. It did mention about Mahakalas, time and space, and some of the cultural things that are more connected to the geography. So the West is West and East is East. How do we, and especially, I mean, you have been obviously trained in Ayurveda, and you are in not only in the West, but you are in Western United States. So you probably have this feeling. How does that reconcile? Are there the same thing we do there, the same thing we do here? Is this similar? You said something about when they spring forward an hour, and that kind of changes about heart attack and other things. So how is that? I mean, I thought when the change is, it looks like at least the evening will look like more like an evening, or maybe not. I mean, so, something that maybe will be worthwhile to consider in further what we need to see. Especially, I find there is so much cultural difference in the East and West, where about the food, about the life, about the society and all that. So that may have some value. And the last point I wanted to make about is that your comments about malaria, actually there are reports about the people who have been immunized against tuberculosis. That population is also very resistant to COVID. And so while we do say Africa, even in India, most of there is a discussion about south of equator is more resistant, and some of it is apparently set for temperature also, and also the spices that are eaten or used in diets that are used in addition to the lifestyles. And then of course modern science says it may be something to do with including malaria exposure and tuberculosis exposure may have actually something to do with the immune system, which may be making us more abhyasa, like you were saying. And abhyasa doesn't mean that you are really getting, the adaptive immunity is you have to be exposed to the organism, but the immune system itself being activated is also an abhyasa, which is I think what you were referring. We do diet and exercise and other thing that our immune system itself is kind of ready to go whenever there is an opportunity. So with those comments, I again want to thank you, and I obviously want to thank Professor Sengupta to organize this. This is a wonderful thing for Center for Indic Studies to do. Namaste.
Thank you. That was very nice. That was very nice. And I agree with what you're saying is that West is West and East is East, but we have to learn few things, and there are basic necessities in that part of the world that they are trying to understand. And here we are a little bit more affluent, and that's why we have a different type of lifestyle. But bridging humanity and understanding the value, and I think the high pace of life, the industrialization, doing everything to make money rather quickly, not able to have time to cultivate relationship. There was already social isolation. People were living in their own little nuclear families away from everything else. There was some degree of distancing and isolation mentally, physically, and disconnected priorities to a certain extent. And I'm not saying it was only in the West, it's happening in many big cities in India as well. So I think the lesson to be learned is to really understand that as a human being is a social human being, and cultivating and doing something which makes difference in one another's life, keeping us healthy, keeping them healthy, and making you feel good about yourself. So the righteousness, the dharma, that is very important, because the remedy for Janapada Dhvansa Vyadhi in Ayurveda, it says, Hitam Janapadanam cha Shivanam Upasevanam Brahmacharyasya Tathaiva Brahmacharinam. So having a lifestyle, which is a Brahman lifestyle. So understanding that consciousness-based health and well-being related lifestyle, which is not that difficult to teach to people. Okay, once they become a little bit more connected, aware, mindful, it should come rather easily. And I'm sure Swamiji would bless that and would would probably take it forward. He's been telling this for a long time to many people and many others, Vedic seers and everything. And I think the fusion of the best of the traditions with the degree of science, because it's not just evidence-based science, but it's a practice-based evidence, what we're talking about here. So we have been practicing this for such a long time, and it is evident that what this practice does to us. And I think that is what needs to come out.
Thank you, Suhasji. And my apologies, I should have mentioned when I was introducing Suhasji that he has two very beautiful, wonderful books, The Hot Belly Diet and Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life. So if you get a chance to go to Suhasji's website, you can read blurbs about that book. And I have already gotten two people who want to ask you questions. Suhasji, Swami Yogatmananda ji first, and then Alok Singh. So Maharaj, you go first.
Oh, yes. My question actually is, I am giving example of Dr. Balram Singh. And then the question, I hope Balram Singh ji will not mind bringing up his example in connection with sleep, because Dr. Suhas has mentioned about sleep, that it is an essential component in maintaining one's health. And I see Dr. Balram Singh hardly ever sleeps. I have noticed it for years that whether he is in India or here or in any time zone, one can call him and he picks up the phone. Maybe it is at 3 in the morning that where he is. So, and he still is able to, be active, keep his energy levels at high. So, is there, Dr. Suhas, any connection between this?
Well, yes, when your name is Balram, you can get away with anything. but there's a concept in Ayurveda which is called as Okasatme. Okasatme is something that you keep on doing it until you practice it to make it suitable for you. And I'm not saying this is 100% right thing for everyone to follow, because this is an essential practice. It is good for cognition. It is good for brain. If there are any other ways that you're giving deep quality rest to your body, where you're doing an hour-long meditation in the morning, hour-long meditation in the evening, that is perfectly fine. But if you are running around 24/7 like this, it's just bound to crumble. Okay, there's no right way to do a wrong thing. And in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Yukta ahar viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. So going to bed at a proper time, waking up at a proper time in a balanced way. And I have seen Maharishi Mahesh Yogi also more or less same, means up to from 9 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the morning, he was busy, active, meetings, talking to people. But he used to have 90-minute sessions of his own individual meditations twice a day, and that gave him that thing. But that was 24/7, 7 days a week. So I would request Balramji to pay attention to this, and even good quality meditation, good quality few hours of sleep is very important, and it's excellent. He is very sharp, he's very witty, he's glowing and healthy and energetic and active. So he must be doing something right that you and me are not doing probably. But I think from a scriptural point of view, from the ideal recommendation point of view, I think sleep is not you're wasting your time, but it is something that you're conserving energy, you're recharging your body. It's something which is an enlightening practice. You are close to your real self in the sleep. It's almost like a dress rehearsal of dying every day that you do, and you still wake up and you realize it's a brand new day for you. So there's lots of quality. And in Vedic scripture, they call it as a dhatri, as a bhuta dhatri, as a yoga maya, which casts a spell and gives you the rest and things. So Nidra Devi, as we call it. So definitely, Balramji, you do need Nidra Devi.
I don't know whether you expect me to say something, but maybe I should say a little bit. I do work hard, and I did practice. This is true, Suhaji. I did practice from 11th grade to sleep only 5 hours, because that was a important thing for me, because I didn't have that much time. And I read Pandit Nehru's biography that he was sleeping only 5 hours, so I thought I could do that too. So I think there is something to do with the practice over a long period of time. And but second thing is that I do meditation, I do some yoga, and on a daily basis. But most importantly, the thing is, I think I sleep very well. Whatever I sleep, I do sleep very well. So my deep sleep, I was just looking at what is, I have Fitbit now. Today, my deep sleep is 23%.
That's very good.
So normally the deep sleep for people of my age is 7 to 13%. So I think the fact that I'm able to sleep well without worrying about things, I just work hard, and then after that, I don't worry about it. That may have something to do with it.
Whatever works.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thanks for
So
your-
now we have Alok Singh, who's going to ask you a question. Suhasji, go ahead, Alok. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Namaste for your beautiful presentation. So it was very interesting articulation that you connected. If a person has a malaria, it's a very difficult to get a COVID-19 infection. But the recent data says that the reinfection cases in COVID-19 and the Professor Balram sir connected with the BCG vaccination means suppose someone is COVID-19 infected, and after some time that person is again infected again by the same virus. So if the malaria in antibody, if the antibody against malaria is working in the population, another finding is saying that the antibody specifically against the COVID-19 is not working for a longer period of time. So how this means both the study can be connected via the Ayurvedic practices?
Well, I think it's a great question, and we don't know enough exactly about how the body is doing. And sometimes we see that you're exposed to a weak strain and you're positive and you build antibodies and you are totally asymptomatic. But the second time around, you're exposed to a much stronger strain and your body doesn't have that much strength to defend itself, and that's what we are seeing. And so I think what we have on a spectrum scale seen that people who are less than 60 years of age, who have had the exposure, who have created the antibodies, they're not getting reinfected that easily. And until and unless we are seeing a huge population which is getting reinfected again and are unable to deal with it, that's when we are a little bit more suspicious and worried whether it is needing a different kind of an immune response that the body has failed to do. But it's all these data collection is still in infancy. These are broad stroke understanding that we are doing from our presumptions. We don't know sure exactly how it has worked, and I think that is the beauty about this thing. In spite of everything else, we still don't know who is going to get and who is going to get what. Means a plane full of people go somewhere and 3 people get a terrible viral infection from something and the rest other doesn't. Okay, so there is still innate strength and their ability to function, which could still be very much different. And it also depends from the state of the mind, the state of the body, and the state of the quality of the strain, or how the host is responding to the reinfection to a certain extent. But great question. We are all ears and trying to find out and keep our eyes over the data to configure what is needed. But I think what we have seen is that if we redistribute the herbal remedy that government of India had come up with, that was called as Ayush 64. It was anti-malarial herbs that was combined like Kutki and Saptaparni and Chirayata and quinine and things like that. And you distribute them, they're all bitter, warm, antifebrile kind of energetics, and people take it like candies, you distribute it freely. It is going to reduce a significant amount of things. It's not going to make them immune and completely not get an infection or anything like that. But yes, it would minimize the risk. And that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to minimize the risk as much as possible through social distancing, through quarantine, through a healthier lifestyle and stuff.
Okay.
Thank you, Suhasji. Suhasji, we have couple of questions in the chat box. Shashi Tiwari ji wants to ask you, you made this statement that my health depends on your health. Now, this statement, is it for all diseases or is it only with reference to this corona?
I think it is in reference to corona, but that applies to everything also. Currently means, say, for example, I'm sick and I'm weak and I'm feeble and I'm contracting corona and I'm interacting with you, then due to my weakness, due to my inability to produce antibodies, then it has grown significantly in my system, and it would be lethal exposure if I talk to you, touch you, hug you, or do anything with you. So your health depends upon my health, whether I'm able to defend myself from something. That is one part of just the COVID exposure. But in general also, okay, if I'm happy, I would make you happy. If I'm healthy, my overall response to anything comes from health and happiness. If I'm stressed out, if I'm unhappy, if I'm unhealthy, if I don't get to my coffee in the morning and I'm shouting and yelling and getting angry at someone, then it does affect your peace of mind also. But if I'm happy, healthy, and cheerful, it'll make your day also. And a simple compliment, an expression of gratitude, you go to a barista and say thank you or make some nice comments, it'll stay with them for the rest of the day. And so something of this is unique. And I think this whole concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a living reality now.
Thank you, Suhasji. We have one question in the chat box. It is from Dr. Ashwini Kumar Ray. And it asks, is there any antimicrobial molecule available against this infection?
Well, there's nothing specific yet that I know. There are combinations, ACTs, that people are combining things together to hypothesize and test, but there's nothing which is done in lab or in vitro to say that this is the molecule coming from this herb that is acting this. There's a promising herb, artemisinin, which a Chinese scientist won a Nobel Prize last year for the discovery of this drug. It was done in the light of malaria, but it's very promising for corona also. And they are doing a lot of research on identifying a molecule out of artemisinin that can be used. And it's a very cheap, inexpensive formulation that can be combined together with turmeric. And they came up with an oral spray of turmeric and artemisinin to protect you getting airborne infection. And it's quite freely distributed. And I think China did it very nicely because they combined herbs, herbal protocols, recommendations, spices, along with the drugs. And many of their pharmaceuticals are combined with the herbs together. So I think it's a complete different way of thinking and managing this situation. And I think those kind of combinations will have to evolve to boost the immunity, to protect the people, to cultivate healthier lifestyle, and then have a drug that is effective.
Thank you, Suhasji. Professor Satya Paraitam of our Charlton Business School, he wants to ask you a question. Go ahead, Satya, please unmute yourself.
I'll take one more question. I have a meeting in a few minutes, okay?
Okay. So maybe this will be... Go ahead, Satya. Satya, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, clear? Okay. Sir,
Yes.
first of all, it's very interesting and informative presentation. Excellent. My question is that I heard Dr. Singh, Balram Singh also told that the people who already have tuberculosis, they are resistant to this corona. Are they resistant or are they more vulnerable?
they have built the antibodies toward that disease, and that's the reason. We're talking about vaccinations, not having people.
Sorry to interrupt, just to correct. I said those who are they have vaccinated against tuberculosis, not those who have tuberculosis. Those who are vaccinated against tuberculosis.
Oh, okay. Those who already have TBs and then got cured.
The BCG vaccine, yeah.
BCG vaccine.
But the general line of treatment is also treating like Rajakshama or Kshaya. So Chavanprash is a medicine that is described in Kshaya Roga, in tuberculosis from an Ayurvedic perspective, taking care of lungs, and all the herbs that are good tonic to lungs are also good during this pandemic of COVID also. So various different herbs, whether you talk about tulsi, whether you talk about vasa, whether you talk about cinnamon, ginger, clove, those are all things which are good on lungs and improving the flow of prana also, which are effective. So again, what he meant was more of a vaccination related response.
Okay.
Okay, I'll take one
Thank
more
you,
question and then I have to go.
Okay, Suhasji, I mean, this question is kind of very broad, but please, you feel free to limit it. It says, is there any relationship between psychology and Ayurveda?
100% means there's nothing else that we can talk about, because it's the state of mind that Ayurveda talks about, because it's the state of mind that changes the physiological functioning. And we know it from the science, whether you respond to any given situation through flight or freeze, whether you don't respond and get stuck and feel depressed and stagnant, you freeze, or you run away from something, or you battle it out and you get angry, grumpy, irritable. Whichever way you respond, your body and cells and tissues is going to be affected. Your emotional health is very, very powerful. And that is the most effective rasayana that you can practice. It's called as Achar Rasayana, the behavioral rasayana, taking care of your emotional health, love, compassion, gratitude, forgiveness. All of those things are positive emotions, positive affirmations. How can you cultivate into living and boosting your own dharma and feeling good about yourself is so important. And I think there's a huge connection to your immune system and to your nervous system, where toxic emotions can be immunosuppressants. When you are lonely, when you are distant, and at least many of us are living with our families and close by and talk to our friends, but there are people who are living by themselves in a single room. And can you imagine what their state of mind would be during a quarantine, where their only interaction of the world was to go to work and interact with people, and they are stuck. So it all affects. In Ayurveda, there is a sutra, it says, Vishado Roga Vivardhana Sreshtaha. Vishad means depression, unhappiness, sadness, grief. And that is the best thing in increasing the intensity of any disease, you name it. No matter what disease you have, if you're feeling depressed, it's going to become tenfold because you're unhappy about it. And boosting your own happiness is something important, and it's easier said than done, okay? So feeling motivated, connecting with the right kind of people, reading the right kind of things, even fun and laughter, not taking it too seriously in a spiritual meditative way. The culmination of a spiritual practice, it makes person easy and laughing all the time. And we see Swamiji giggling and laughing all the time, which is the sign that the spirituality has synced into that level where he can be in that way where he can literally look at the situation and understand the lighter side of it. And I think that is the virtue. Even Dalai Lama that we see is laughing and giggling like a little child all the time. So I think not taking yourselves too seriously, understanding it is what it is going to be, and your response is going to be based upon common sense. That is very important. And more importantly, engaging in yourself, because I think this is the time. This is what I feel that we have come long way. We are going away from this hospital-based healthcare system, HMO system. No health maintenance organization, HMO, is able to take care of your health. You have to empower yourself. You have to learn. You have to take care of yourself. And this is the best opportunity that can happen to this country, where people are going to go out and learn about themselves, learning Ayurveda, learning yoga, trying to do something for themselves, so they don't have to rely upon the system. And we can completely defy and create a new age medicine in which yoga and Ayurveda, which would be a huge part of that new emerging paradigm. So I wish you all the best, and thank you for this opportunity for having me here, Sukalyanji and Balramji. So we will do it again whenever you want me. I love interacting with your group, and you bring the best out of me. So whenever you want me, I will always be there. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suhas ji. And as I said, we will put this video recording online, and also some 3 other videos of Suhas ji's other interviews and his TED talk, which is a wonderful. I'm guaranteeing that you will love it when you see it. So I will put those things up together. And this participation, we had wonderful participation today. It inspires Satya and Uday and Balramji and us to do more such events. So be on the lookout. Thank you so much. Namaste.